The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kate Trace with TDHCA. We are presenting today the Housing Stability Services Program webinar on how to do your contract system reporting. So with me today is Alex Pistelnik and Frank Sarno. I know a lot of you have talked to them or met with us on video calls. Also today, she has not officially joined us yet. She's going through her orientation, but we're going to welcome Meredith Malsby to our team. She comes from the City of Dallas Housing Department, so we're excited to have her on board. So it looks like there's still some folks signing in to the webinar. So Alex, if you want to go ahead to the next slide, we'll just go over some administrative reminders before we get into the meat of the presentation. As always, everything that we have today is going to be available on our website. So these slides will be posted on there if you want to, when you do your reporting for the next couple of months, download these slides and, have them accessible. That would be great on that website right there. At the end of the training, we will have a Q&A session. I think we'll keep the Q&A just to stuff that's pretty broad and general for the whole group. If there's something real specific about, your specific contract or some of the activities you've got for your specific program, we'll probably just follow up directly with you if it's not really applicable to the whole group. So as we get going, you'll see in your GoToWebinar panel, I think it hides to the right side of your screen. If you can't find it, there should be a little orange arrow. Click that and it'll pop out your screen. It'll show you where to enter questions. Please use the questions and not the chat box. Someone is asking, is there audio? Yes, there is audio. So I'm just going to go through the beginning of the webinar. Alex will get in.
Can I actually jump in real quick, Kate?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you are not receiving audio, this is a common problem with GoToWebinar. If you go into your control panel and you click under audio, make sure that your speakers are assigned to the correct driver, right? So you may have multiple devices kind of attached to your computer, and it may be going through an audio driver that is not your speakers. So if you go to that audio tab and make sure you select the correct audio driver, it can get confusing at times. I have a bunch of drivers on my computer, so you can keep playing around with it until you find one that gives you audio. So that's usually the problem.
Okay. It looks like the person that had that issue got it all sorted out. So thank you for that reminder, Alex. And then, as always, our trainings will be recorded and posted on the webpage. So in addition to the slides, if someone else on your staff wasn't able to attend this meeting, it will be recorded and posted online. We'll try to get that up as quick as possible, hopefully tomorrow. It usually takes a day to process the video and get it posted. So it looks like we have almost 50 people online. That was most of the folks that are signed up. So let's go ahead and get started with the next slide. Okay, so today, like I said, Alex is going to be doing most of the presentation. I will be giving some updates and announcements at the beginning. Some pretty, exciting for our little program announcements. And then Alex will go through kind of all the nuts and bolts of how to do your reporting, who's going to have what roles in your organization, how to send us the performance, the number of households that you've served, and then how to receive your monthly administrative draws and your funding each month. And then additionally to the reports that will go in the housing contract system, we also have that backup monthly household reporting spreadsheet. This is a list of every household that was served with all the data that the Treasury Department wants us to collect, and if they have received any specific direct payments. Then we'll go through next steps, getting everyone access to their contracts and their housing contract system portals. And then hopefully we've got plenty of time for Q&A. I know we set this meeting for 2 hours. I don't think we're going to need all of that time, but it's there just in case. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with some program announcements. Okay, so the first thing, I know I've been mentioning to a lot of folks that our ERA2 Nofa is coming out. Coming soon. Our goal is to get it up by Friday, by the end of October, just depending on how quickly that goes through our legal folks. It may be early next week, but we will send a listserv announcements when it is released. I'm sure there'll be press releases about it. There will be, it'll be all over the TDHCA website. If you're signed up for any of our communication, you will definitely know that this Nofa is out. It's going to be for 84 million. 4 million of that is going to be a statewide set aside. So organizations that have a statewide presence and provide statewide services, or a majority of the state, for example, a balance of state type setup, or if you're more than just a regional organization, you do have several statewide offices. And then there will be a competition for $80 million regionally by TDHCA's 13 state service regions. Applications for this are going to be due on Friday, December 17th. So between late this week or early next week, when we release the Nofa and that due date, we will have an application workshop. And again, if you're on our communications, you'll know how to sign up for that workshop if this is something that your organization is interested in pursuing. I will mention that for these awards, it's going to be a 2-year, a 24-month award. So that's a little bit different than the 12-month awards that we're currently doing with the ERA1 funding. I know it takes a lot of effort to get these programs set up, so we're going to set the application kind of thresholds a little bit higher to accommodate for that 24-month contract period. The next thing, I'm sure some eyes have gone down to this next bullet, is the new timeline for reporting. So this is something that Alex will go into detail in the next slide. But originally, it was decided that reporting for this program would be due on the 6th of every month. Oh, I'm sorry, someone is asking what Nofa stands for. That's a good question, and I apologize for talking in acronyms. Nofa is a Notice of Funding Availability. So for the next round of funding, this is how you submit an application to receive the next application. So my apologies for that. Now back to the new timeline for reporting. We've heard from a lot of folks that getting your reports into us by the 6th of the month has been really difficult, even though this has been something that has been in our benchmarks. We've known about it for a long time. When you put it into practice, it's not really working out for a lot of organizations. So the housing stability staff had come up with a plan, and we ran this up the chain. And we are really pleased to announce that our reporting is now going to be due on the 15th instead of the 6th of the following month. So like I said, Alex will get into that in a little bit more detail. These deadlines I know exist in your contracts. So what we're going to have to do is contract amendments, and it will just be an addendum that will go on to all of your contracts that will have a new reporting timeline. So, when we get to the end of November, your reports will not be due on December 6th. They will be due on December 15th. And then also we'll post a timeline on our website of exactly what day of the week that's going to be. Let's say a date falls on a Saturday or a Sunday. I would like to make those due on that following Monday. So, for example, if the 15th falls on a Sunday, your reporting would be due on that Monday. Just in case you have any questions, any concerns, you can reach a staff member, because we really do not care to work on Saturdays and Sundays, and we don't think that's fair to make you guys do that either. So again, that will be coming. If you have any questions, please let us know. This will be done through a contract amendment. I know there are some other organizations, some of you folks out there have other items that need to be amended in your contract. So we're going to do this all at one time. So we'll just have one round of contract amendments. So more detail will be coming on this. So we've got some questions coming in about the reporting change. Alex, do you want to go ahead to the next slide and get into a little bit more detail on this? Okay. So someone has asked if the reporting deadline will change beginning on November 15th. Yes, it will. If you want to submit your reporting early, please do. We're working very hard to have all of the portals ready to go. But this reporting deadline change is immediate. So that 6th deadline has now been extended to November 15th. So with that, I'll hand it over to Alex. And like I said, thank you so much for all of the hard work, and please, pummel us with questions. You always do. You guys have the great questions. So with that, Alex is going to lead you through your reporting. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Postelnik. As Kate mentioned, the first thing I'm going to talk about is this change on our reporting deadline to the 15th of each month. I don't have all that much to add on top of what Kate has already said. It's pretty straightforward that instead of reporting on the 6th, you'll now be reporting by that 15th of the month for the previous month's activities. One of the important things to note here is that if that 15th falls on a weekend, you'll still have to get that report in by the 15th. So you'll either have to submit it. Yeah, go ahead.
My apologies. I do want to shift that deadline. If it falls on a Saturday or Sunday,
okay.
It will be due on that Monday. Just if there are any questions, I know about half of our organizations have never even been in the housing contract system, so we will not leave you guys hanging on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we will post a timeline on our website so that you know exactly what month has what due date. I know we've shifted this around a few times, and even internally we're confusing ourselves. So this will be posted. It's the 15th or the following Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Kate. Yeah, that even more good news for today. So changing gears here. 15th or the Monday after if it falls on a weekend. And on that 15th, and this is just kind of a repeat of what we've already told you, you're going to have 2 required reports, both of which we'll touch on a little bit today, but we're mainly going to be focusing on report number 1, which is the Housing Contract System Draws and Performance Report. This report is going to be primarily how you process your draws or reimbursement requests for expenditures over the previous month. So this is mainly what this system is going to be used for. The second report that you're going to submit is going to be that monthly household reporting spreadsheet through the portal on our website. This spreadsheet will both be used to kind of check your housing contract system requests, as well as this will mainly be the spreadsheet we use in order to develop our quarterly reports to Treasury, which are also how we were going to be monitoring your performance quarterly, those quarterly benchmarks that you have in your contract, right? So both these reports are absolutely fundamental to the success of the program, and we actually will not process or approve any draw requests from the housing contract system unless we also get your monthly household reporting spreadsheet. But we'll talk about first this housing contract system, and then second, we'll touch back on the monthly household reporting spreadsheet. So going on to the housing contract system. So one of the first things I want to touch on is I know we have a lot of organizations here who have previously used the housing contract system. You might be very familiar with it. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about here today is going to be just repetition. I ask that you still, lend us your ear, because there's going to be a few unique things in the housing contract system that are unique specifically to the Housing Stability Services program. So there's going to be things you're going to want to know that are unique to our program. But just starting out, for those of you who might be new to this system, or for our new subrecipients, there's a reason why we use this housing contract system. It's an internal TDHCA system for processing and approving draw reimbursement requests. So when we use that word draw, it's a reimbursement for your previous expenditures for your previous month's activities. This system allows us to establish defined roles and processes for submitting draw requests. So on that housing contract system access form that all of your organizations previously submitted before signing your contracts, you establish roles for members of your organizations to approve draw requests or to simply view and save draw requests. The same thing happens on our end, where the system allows us to have defined roles for approving your draw requests, as well as for sending them to our financial administration staff to ensure that we can get you your reimbursement as soon as possible. The next is it actually allows another system for you to monitor your budget and your previous draw requests as well. So it keeps a history of draw requests you've had in the past. It keeps a history of what is remaining in your budget and where you have expended on the aggregate. The next is it provides a centralized database for organization contracts and contacts. So it provides phone numbers, names, addresses, all the information that we would need in one central database in order to contact you and to just gather information about how the HSS program is operating. And finally, and this is probably the one that we may all care about the most, is this allows us to reimburse eligible expenses as quickly as possible. So going forward into November, all of our reimbursement processes will start using the housing contract system. So I know we've, for the first month and for October advances, have used a spreadsheet, but in the future we will be using the system, and that's because it allows us to get those reimbursements out to you as soon as possible. Because if everything is good with your reports, we can just approve it. It immediately gets sent to our financial administration staff, and they're able to process your draw requests quickly. At the end of this, I just provided a link to the contract system, as well as the fact that this is on our website. So you can always access it on our website. And if you do ever forget or lose the link to our website, you can just type into Google TDHCA HSS, and our website will be the first thing to pop up. So moving on to a discussion about account administration and user roles. Right now, we are all in the process over here at the TDHCA staff on assigning usernames, passwords, and roles to personnel listed on your HCS access form. Some of you, I do know, already have accounts set up, and we will be using those existing accounts whenever possible. So we'll just be adding contracts to your existing accounts. However, for the rest of you, we will be sending out your username as well as the temporary password and assigning you your contract and role within the housing contract system. We were hoping to get this all done before today's meeting, but it is, quite a long process. We're almost there. We have about a half to 75% of everybody who is a contract executor, as well as your main HCS access point person assigned. So in the next day or two, you should all receive emails related to your account. Going off of that HCS access form that you've all submitted, there's going to be two main roles that you have assigned based on that form. The first is going to be this external contract administrator role. And this user is able to see, save, and submit draw requests for TDHCA approval. So this is the key element here. This user is able to submit draw requests for TDHCA approval. And the second is an external contract consultant. This user can see, enter, and save draw requests, but cannot submit draw requests for TDHCA approval. So if you find yourself having issues being able to submit a draw request, it could be that you're assigned this contract consultant role. The last thing that we're going to request from everyone, and this is actually how you will be receiving your temporary passwords if you do not currently have an account, is that we're asking that everyone resets their ask for password resets or changes in their roles by using the HSS general email address. This will allow us to respond to you all as quickly as possible, as well as to keep a running tally of whose passwords that we are changing. So please use this email address whenever possible for administrative requirements with the housing contract system. So going on, when you are assigned your user ID and your temporary password, or if you already have a user ID and password, you'll be prompted with this screen. It's just your user ID and your password. You're going to type those in, you're going to log in, and what will happen if you have a temporary password is it's going to prompt you to reset your password. So you're just going to type in your temporary password again, and then create a new password and confirm your new password through the system. If you ever forget your password, there is no way to automatically request a reset password. You have to contact us and we have to reset and give you a new temporary password to log in. So that's important. Unlike Facebook or something like that, you can't just click a forget your password link and get it reset. You'll have to email us. But once you've confirmed your new password, you're going to get onto this main contract assigned screen. If you have not been assigned a contract to your account yet, it's going to look like this screen on the left where it says no contracts are currently assigned. That just means that we may not have gotten around to assigning a contract to you yet. So hold tight. But if this problem persists, please let us know and we'll get it taken care of. But generally what you will see as you go forward with the housing contract system is this screen to the right, which will show a notifications list of all of the pending draws you may have or pending amendments to how your contract is set up in the housing contract system. If you don't have any notifications, it'll usually just show up with the list of contracts that you are currently assigned to. If at any time, though, you want to just look at the number of contracts you're assigned to and you want to see them all, if you notice in that left-hand corner, it says My Contracts, and you can click on My Contracts to be able to view all of your contracts. So going on from this first screen that you will see is we're going to talk a little bit about the notifications list first up. So there can be a variety of notifications you might see, but right here we see a notifications list that just shows the amount of the draw, when it was submitted, and then right here, listed under activity, this shows that this is going to be actually a program draw, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Don't worry about it too much right now, but this is a program draw in the amount of $7,000 that was submitted on October 18th. You'll also see over here the status of your draw. And for draw status, it says pending. So generally, you'll see a few different types of draw statuses. The first is pending PM approval. This means portfolio manager approval. And this means it's waiting for our HSS staff to approve it. So Frank, myself, Kate, or Meredith when she starts. The next is going to be pending, and this one is different. This one means that HSS staff have approved the draw, but it's waiting on our TDHCA financial administration staff to process it. And this process will usually go pretty quick. The next is just approved, and this means that you should be receiving your direct deposit in the next few days. And the last one is a rejected draw or a rejected pending amendment draw. And so if you get a rejected draw, our staff will generally write in a comment section on that draw, why it has been rejected. And we'll probably follow up with you through email as well to discuss why that draw was rejected, so you can fix what you need to in order to get that draw approved. So next, we're going to go on to the contract screen. So if this is what's going to happen if you click that My Contracts link in the left-hand corner there, what's going to pop up is this screen right here. Right now, the contractor is set up as Salvation Army of Midland, but do not worry, this is actually all just fake information that we plugged in, with the exception of the contractor name, right? So this is just a test account. These are not actual amounts here. They are all kind of made up amounts just to serve as an example. So there's a few things you're going to notice on this screen, and that's going to be that it has your just basic information about the contract up here, and then information about who the main contact at your organization for that contract is, a name of the person executing that contract. So this is usually going to be like a CEO, a president, for instance, and then the names of whoever your point person at TDHCA is for that contract. And this could change as time goes on and we add more staff, but that's going to be your point person. And then a notice that this contract is active, right? So if it's active, then you're able to request draws. So this is just the basic information you'll see on the screen. We're now going to go to look at processing an administrative draw. I have to erase my drawings here, excuse me. So the first thing we're going to talk about is submitting an administrative draw. And this is important because the process for submitting an administrative draw versus submitting a project, which is also known as a program or a programmatic expense draw, is different. They are different processes. You have to do them separately. So going on from submitting an admin draw, we're going to see this little link down here that says draw request. Forgive me there. Draw request. You're going to select on this link, and it's going to take you to this screen. It's going to request that you check this box if all required documents have been submitted. If you click on that documentation forms list, it's going to take you to forms for a different program. You do not need to submit any of those forms. It's just going to be forms that you might need for other programs, but you do not need to submit any of those forms. The only other thing you need to submit in addition to this is going to be that monthly household reporting spreadsheet that we'll get to at the end of this conversation. So next, you're going to fill in that services rendered from and services rendered to, and this is always going to be a calendar month, right? So it's here we have the beginning of November to the end of November, which means I would be submitting for this draw sometime around December 15th. So month of November, submission around December 15th. Oops. So admin draws are actually quite simple. All you're going to do once you click that continue button is you're going to go down here to where it has the draw amount, and you're going to just plug in the amount that you are requesting for reimbursement for your admin funds. You're going to put that in, You can save here if you're an external consultant, but you don't have the administrator role that allows you to submit for approval. So you can save. But if you are that administrator, you will be able to save and submit for approval. So you just put in the dates for your services rendered, insert the amount, save and submit for approval, and then it'll go straight to us to approve that draw. So admin draws are fairly simple. The more complex type of draw is going to be program draws. And this is where our program is going to be a little bit different from ESG or home or a community affairs program such as CSBG. So if you were going to submit a program draw, you actually go up to where it says activities. So this is your contract page. So if you go back to the contract page, in that top right-hand corner, it says activities. You're going to click on this button, and we are already going to have an activity set up for you. And this activity is going to have budgeted to it the amount that you've sent us in your initial budgets for direct household payments, and then as well as general programmatic expenses, right? So this activity is the way that we are kind of budgeting and itemizing those two expenses. If you're familiar with the housing contract system, some programs you set up your own activities, but for this program, we're going to have those set up for you. And if you need to change those budgeted amounts, you're going to need to request it from us. So there'll be an activity here. It's going to be the last, I believe, 9 digits or so of your contract number. You're going to click on that activity number, and then it's going to take you to this screen here. And this is going to be your activity request screen. And what it's going to show you is there's going to be your budgeted amounts for direct household payments and HSS services down here. So it's going to show the amount of those that you have funded or requested to be funded, the total amount you've drawn, and the amount that you still have available right here. And we're going to set all this up for you beforehand. And then once again, if you need changes to these amounts, you're going to have to discuss that with us, and it may involve a contract amendment. We are still working out the process for that. But to request a draw amount for program funds, both direct household payments and then for general programmatic expenses, you're going to select down here where it says draw requests, and that's going to take you to the next screen. The next screen is just going to be kind of this list of all of the draws that you've made so far. So we see that we already have one pending here. It's the one that we initially saw on that notifications list, right? And we see that it's pending approval from financial administration staff. We want to add a new draw, which you can only successfully do after that this pending one has been approved and the funds dispersed. Then you're going to select this create a new HSS draw request highlighted in red here. And that's just going to take you to the next screen. And it's the same exact thing as with an admin draw. You're going to put the services rendered dates, which is going to be a calendar month, and you're going to check the box. And if you don't check the box, it'll warn you to do that in order to proceed. And then it'll just take you to the next screen. And this is where things get very different from processing an administrative draw. There's two main things that we're going to have to note here. The first is that your draw here is going to be split out between those housing stability services, and that's those general programmatic expenses. And the second is your direct household payments. So you're going to give the amounts for each one of those. And then if you press save now without doing anything else, it's going to give you an error. And the reason it's going to give you an error is because you need to submit a performance report. And so in order to submit a performance report, and this is very important, you have to select this performance report highlighted in red over here. And it's going to take you to the following screen. So this screen right here is going to be the aggregate amounts of your household served over the reporting period, right? So your household served over the previous month. And this is going to be split up by area median income, household served by race, household served by ethnicity, and then as well as gender. And as we previously discussed with the monthly reporting spreadsheet, gender is by the gender of primary applicant, right? So you're going to fill this out. These are going to be aggregate numbers, and you'll already have them because you are logging that individual household information for the household reporting spreadsheet, right? So this should match what is put on your household reporting spreadsheet. Once you've filled this information out, you're going to either save if you're not ready to submit for approval, or you're going to save and submit for approval. And this will then allow you to submit that draw request once you have processed that performance report. So we're back at this notifications list. Let's see what we can see here. On draw number 1, we have that initial draw pending financial approval that we started this conversation with. The next, and it's also listed as number 1 because it's the first administrative draw that is requested, and that's why under activity, it says not acquired. It says NA because it's an administrative draw. And then the next is going to be that draw that we just put in for the month of November, and it's going to show the aggregate of all of your programmatic expenses right there. So that's those direct household payments plus those general programmatic expenses. And with that, we have fully processed a draw request in the housing contract system. That with the pending PM approval label gets sent to one of our administrators with the HSS program. We're going to approve or reject or request a change with that information submitted. And then it goes off to our financial administration staff for processing. Okay, so that is how to use the housing contract system, all the way from the roles developed through submitting a draw request. We're now going to briefly touch on monthly household reporting. I'm not going to go in depth on this because if you were at our September 6th meeting, we went very in depth with the monthly household reporting spreadsheet and the requirements for this. You can find a recorded version of that webinar on our website. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask us. But what I'm primarily going to cover is a few changes with monthly household reporting in line with Treasury requirements and guidance. So we've been talking about this direct household payments and this general programmatic expenses categories for program expenses. We now need to break this down in our monthly household spreadsheet. So we've added a few requirements for logging within the monthly household spreadsheet for these direct household payment amounts. So this is a list here of what is meant by that direct household payments kind of category. and what you will be logging in the spreadsheet for that amount. So the first thing that we will need to know is whether the household stayed in a HSS funded hotel or motel during the reporting month. This is important because if you did pay for hotel or motel fees up front, so for instance, you may have paid for a household to stay, you know, part of August and part of September in a hotel or motel, but you paid it in August, right? So the amount is going to go on the August spreadsheet, but you're going to click yes for that household on staying in an HSS funded hotel or motel for both the months of August and September. So once again, the amount goes only in one of the months where the payment was expended, and then, but the household gets marked as being served by a hotel or motel in both months. The next is going to be a general kind of rent security deposits, pet deposits, and application fees category. So this is general anything doing having to do with deposits or fees associated with getting a household into an apartment, right? The next is going to be a general kind of utility line, which includes utility deposits and utility reconnection fees. And the final is going to be landlord incentives and risk fees. So we've had a few questions about risk fees, and for the purposes of the HSS program, risk fees are counted as landlord incentives, and they should be treated as the same way. The last thing is that you can find this updated spreadsheet on our website, and that you can download it and look at it there. I have one final note with the monthly household reporting spreadsheet, and that's that the portal for this monthly household reporting spreadsheet, which is also on our website, should only be used to submit this spreadsheet. So you should only be submitting this spreadsheet in the monthly household reporting portal, when that's going to be that smart sheet link. If you do submit something else that's not this spreadsheet, we're going to have to ask you to resubmit. It gets a little bit messy and creates more work for us. So try to keep this for just these spreadsheets, and try to limit having to resubmit the spreadsheet. So only submit it when you're pretty darn certain that it's finalized. That way, I don't have to go through and clean out data and clean out submissions and wonder, like, is this the correct spreadsheet, or is this one if you've submitted it twice or 3 times? So try to just submit it once and only submit that spreadsheet in that Smartsheet portal link. Yeah, so this is just what I already said with the reminders. Yeah, try not to submit more than one spreadsheet per reporting month, and try to ensure that data is submitted promptly and accurately. Because once again, this spreadsheet is going to be used for those quarterly benchmark reports, and we will be cross-checking it with your aggregates that you're putting in the housing contract system. So that spreadsheet and your aggregates in the housing contract system should align, and we should be able to use them to check one another for accuracy. Okay, so we've gone through using the housing contract system, a few reminders with the monthly household reporting spreadsheet. And once again, if you have more questions about that, there is that link to our former webinar that goes in depth on that spreadsheet, as well as the fact that within the spreadsheet itself, there is a data dictionary that tells you how to log and fill out each column there. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask us. But with that, I'm going to bring Kate back on to talk about next steps and to wrap up the webinar.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. We've got some good questions coming in. Some of them I've answered directly, but once I go through these next steps, we can go through some of those questions that might also be helpful for other folks to hear. So like I said at the beginning of the webinar, we're changing the reporting deadline. Those changes will need to be made in your contracts. So we will have contract amendments coming out soon. Like I said, we'd like to do this in, large batches. So it's not going to be every time you have a little change, we'll put through an amendment. It's, if there's a group of changes that need to happen at one time, they will come through. So please stay tuned on that. But the information that you've received here today is the most current. So the 15th is the deadline. We'll put that out in a communication. It will in time be amended in your contract. So you will have that in writing from us. And then, like I said, we've got one more person coming on board today. We'll be hiring another few folks in the next few months. So you will be getting some new staff assignments. But as always, you can contact any one of us. We'll be able to get you in the right direction. So I think with the next slide, Alex, is it just questions? There we go. Okay. So like I said, I've been going through some of the questions that have come in. I'll just read through some of the key ones that I think would be helpful for everyone to know. So the first one is a clarification on the reporting deadline. So September and October reports are now due on Monday, November the 15th. Certainly, if you have that sooner, we'd love to have it sooner. Just in case if there are any questions or issues, we're not handling this for 27 different agencies all on one day, because then we have to turn this around with all of the other Texas Rent Relief program data and roll that up to Treasury as well. So we definitely would appreciate, if you have questions on something, reach out to us early. Let's see. So let me see, Alex, we had a question about the race and ethnicity categories. There was one slide that we went through, that you went through on the performance report. These race and ethnicity categories are exactly as they appear in the Treasury reporting. So, while they don't really track to some of our other programs and some of the ways that homelessness services do report race, ethnicity, or gender, this is exactly from Treasury. So the question that we got was, if there is a multiracial family, there is a multiracial category here. So this would be how the household identifies themselves. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, so we're doing all this based on self-identification. Certainly, if you're a subrecipient who already has a process in place for collecting this data that varies a little bit from this, we ask that you just be consistent with how you are collecting and requesting this data. But generally, we have phrased the sort of self-identification is like, how would you self-identify the race of your household, right? Certainly, whoever's filling out the application is welcome to select the multiracial / other category. They're welcome to identify the household however they would like. So there's no hard and fast rule about this besides self-identification. The only thing we would be a problem is we do not want decline to answer categories being selected for any reason other than the household truly declines to answer, right? So if the way you're collecting this data doesn't quite fit the categories we have here, please don't put everything in the decline to answer category, because that would, of course, cause issues with reporting to Treasury in the way that the program is structured based on these categories.
Thank you for that clarification, Alex. There's also some questions that have come in about the cash advances and the reimbursements that have been done by spreadsheet and by email versus how that is now going to appear in the housing contract system. So, and Alex and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but if your organization has already received a payment for either an advance or a reimbursement, that amount will already appear in your housing contract system portal. So you won't go in, if you've already submitted, and received a cash advance for September, you won't go in and request that same amount for your September draw. That's already been in there. So, in some cases it could be, you need $0 because that is the draw that you currently need. You've already received the cash for September and October. If there, as you go through your monthly closeouts, if you need a little bit more, depending on, more activity, more households served, then you would put that additional amount. So whatever you put in the contract system for your monthly draws will equal the total amount that you have expended in that month. So your whatever you've received already, direct deposit, cash advance, or reimbursement should already be reflected in the contract system. This is not, kind of a duplicate draw. Alex or Frank, do you guys have anything else to add to that statement?
Yeah, I brought the notifications list here. Okay. Specifically because I believe the way that this will be done is we are going to, and this could change, but we're going to log your advance and your existing draw for October and September if you have requested those in the system. And so you should probably already see eventually. It might not be right away. We're still getting this set up, but you should see those draws already in the system when you log in. So if you do already see a draw, don't freak out. It's probably the amounts for your advance and your reimbursement.
Mm-hmm. And then a follow-up question to that was, what is the deadline to submit those advance requests? So Frank and Alex, I'm not quite sure if you guys had put specific deadlines on your requests, but I would like to have, all of the advance process completed before we start entering the draw. The draws, this is how it very accurately collects this information in our system and our financial administration. It's much quicker for them to process a draw request because they get those notifications immediately from the housing contract system. It's much quicker than submitting an advance by email and having us email them. Everything keeps it in the housing contract system. So if you are still thinking about submitting a cash advance, respond to us right away. As soon as you get your contract system access, would like this process to be completed with the cash advances. Let's see.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I would say by the end of the week. After that, it's likely to come in at the same time as your November 6th when you report. So by the end of the week would be great, but as soon as possible for sure.
Okay. We've got a question about furnishings. Has Treasury responded to us about furnishings as an allowable activity or expense for the Housing Stability Services Program? Unfortunately, no. We've asked them several times. We have submitted even, with our quarterly reporting for the last quarter, any outstanding questions we have, that was included. They have not gotten back to us on that. I guarantee as soon as we hear from them, you all will know, because I know that we've set aside some funds or we've shifted around some funds depending on whatever that decision is. I wish I had a better answer, but we're waiting on that response from Treasury. Let's see, Alex and Frank, if you guys want to jump in some of these questions as well. I know we're getting all over the place as the questions are kind of coming through. Okay, so as a follow-up to kind of the cash advance or the reimbursement, someone has asked if they've already submitted a partial month. Will a second request be for the remainder? Will that mess things up? And the answer is no. So if you've already requested an amount of funding for either September or October, and you found that you need additional funds based on additional activities that you've undertaken under this program, that will not mess anything up. This is actually where you should submit your draw for whatever that amount is beyond your advance or beyond your reimbursement that will get you to the total amount for the month for your expenses. I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Okay. We've got a question about the monthly household report. An organization says that they're not funded for the direct household payments, but they're just doing housing stability services. Do you still need to complete the monthly household report? Absolutely, yes. Every organization needs to complete the monthly household report, even if your organization is just doing meal services. There's a separate tab for meal services if you're not collecting full intake for every person that comes in specifically for the meal services. And that's just a handful of organizations that have received prior approval for that specific service. And they've received direct guidance on that specific reporting.
And if I can jump in, Kate, just a reminder that for all organizations, that monthly household report spreadsheet is primarily what's going to be used for our quarterly reports, which include monitoring your quarterly performance benchmarks for the contract and for your contract benchmarks. So it's very important that you fill it out and you take it seriously, because that's tied to, so that housing contract system, once again, is tied to your draws. So, you don't fill that out, you don't get money, right? You don't get reimbursed. If you don't fill out the monthly household spreadsheet, first of all, we won't improve the reimbursement, but also it could affect how your quarterly performance goals go, right? And the reason for that is that category, and we talked about this at the September 6th discussion, is there is a field on there that says, is this the first time you have served this household over the life of the program? Is this a new, unique household? And that one column is very important, both for your quarterly benchmarks as well as for what we report to Treasury. So just want to stress the importance once again of that spreadsheet and why it's there.
Okay, I've seen one more question in here that that is, topically related to this. Someone asks about application fees. This is specifically related to those direct household payments. So within direct household payments, this would be for short-term hotel, motel, utility deposits, rent deposits, including pet deposits, and application fees. So yes, that is something that had previously not been included in our guidance, but is included. And that is something that will be reflected in contract amendments as an allowable activity for direct household payments. There may be some more follow-up questions on that. Please, reach out to us directly if you have questions on the direct household payment category. But again, that is something that we will put in the contract amendment section. So I think there's a few questions that are pretty program specific, subrecipient specific, that we'll get back to folks directly on. But that is the last of the reporting related questions I see coming through. Alex or Frank, did you guys have anything that you wanted to add on to those questions that we've already gone over?
Nope, you covered it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all for attending this reporting webinar. I know it might seem, a little abstract to go through screens of what you're going to click on in the future, but I think this will be really helpful once you get access to the contract system. It can be kind of a step-by-step guide to entering your draw requests and entering your monthly performance reports each month. And then, again, please just reach out to us with any questions. We've got a handful of questions that we will get back to you folks directly on. So yeah, very, very much appreciate your time today. And we are just over an hour. I think that's just the perfect amount for a pretty dense reporting webinar. So again, this will be recorded. The slides will be posted on the website. Here is our contact information. Our new person, she's being assigned a phone number today. So don't worry, if she is your new contract administrator contact, we will make sure you know how to get in touch with her. So appreciate everyone. And with that, I think we will end the webinar and speak with you shortly. Thank you.